going on, everybody? Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room. I am your host, Mistress Carrie. Welcome to the War Room. And as you can already see, if you are an experienced member of Cocktails in the War Room, Wednesday has joined us in the War Room after her brief hiatus last week. Thank you to everybody that has joined us in the War Room. This is episode 191. Go over there Wednesday so everybody can see you. We have gotten together 191 times here in my war room, although a few times we haven't been in the war room, like last weekend. We were actually in my studio, MCHQ. But it all started back on March 14th of 2020, and we started getting together in the height of the pandemic to pass the time, talk about what was going on, and basically just suffer together. Really? We're going to start the show with the crying? You need to back up. Back up. Down. And so after 80 episodes, when we launched the Mistress Carrie podcast on June 10th of 2020, Cocktails in the War Room became a weekly show, and we have been doing it here in my war room ever since. And Wednesday, if you're new to the war room, this is Wednesday. She's my co-host, my partner in crime, and the biggest furry pain in the butt that has ever existed. And she has been trained with her giant hot dog that when she comes in the war room, she gets treats. And so now she has just started joining us on the show because she wants the cookies. And that's it. So rocking the old school Skid Row shirt tonight, says Brito. Exactly. Busted out something old school. This is from 1989, this shirt. I've been trying to pick up where I left off during the pandemic, when I really started cleaning out closets and organizing my t-shirt collection. And it fell by the wayside for a while, and I'm trying to get motivated to pick it back up again. But nobody wants to clean out their closets. It's just a giant pain in the ass, and nobody wants to do it. But I know there's gold in them there hills, and I know that there's, do you guys see her scratching me? I know that there's stuff in there that is lost that I haven't been able to find. And so that's kind of what's motivating me, is some of the shirts that I'm going to find in there. And so I'm pretty excited about it. So for anyone that is new to the war room, this is what we do. We get together on Tuesday nights at 8:30. We talk about what's going on. We talk about the podcast. I'm going to tell you who's on this week's episode. And we kind of run down a lot of the headlines in music, talk about what's happening in music. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. So first of all, Wednesday, able to join us again. She's not allowed in MCHQ. Some serious technical difficulties during the show last week. So we had to do the show from the studio, the podcast and radio studio. But she's very excited that we were able to get back in the war room again this week. Can you back up? Back up. Down. Good girl. Here. Good girl. Let's see. Do you hang up your concert tees, or are they in a drawer? Jonathan, they are in a cedar trunk, actually. I could not possibly hang them up. I don't have enough wall space. It's not possible for me to hang up all the concert shirts I have. To my knowledge, I've never lost one. I'm trying to think of one that I lost, and I really can't. I cut some up that I still have. A lot of them I don't wear very often. The ones you see me wear here in the war room, I'll wear them in the war room, but a lot of the time I won't wear them outside of the house because they're old and they're thin, and I don't want anything to happen to them. I have, on occasion, loaned out a concert shirt or two for like a high school 80s themed kind of day or party, or, oh, pardon me, the official bartender of Cocktails in the War Room has made me a better version of last week's cocktail. Will you do me a favor? Will you plug that in? I forgot to do it. Yeah, that right there. So she made me this week's cocktail, which another Shirley Temple for me. But what I did not show you guys last week, and I'm going to try and show you, but I got to get my fingers in here. Hold on. You guys remember those skull ice cube trays that you bought me, that you sent me? This is what the ice cubes look like. Oh shit, it's dripping. I can't bring it too close to the computer because I don't want it to drip, but they're skull-shaped ice cubes in my mocktail for Cocktails in the War Room. Thank you, official bartender of Cocktails in the War Room. I've been waiting for that. So the last couple days, I've been, over the holiday weekend, I did a lot of work in the yard and it was hot and I got really dehydrated this weekend. And so I've been really trying to get myself rehydrated again because I got a little loopy this weekend. So that's why I'm not having a cocktail tonight, because I have been really trying to get myself hydrated. And I have dinner plans with friends tomorrow night and we're going out for margaritas. And so I'm saving it all up for that. So Mark says, plug that in. That's what she said. I forgot to plug in the computer, and the battery in the computer is going to die if I don't plug it in during the show because it eats up a lot of the battery power. So she plugged it in for me. So yeah, Skull Ice Balls. They're fantastic. What's up, Jacqueline? Hello, Elsa. Keith says, I have those. Give me an ice cube, Mom, says Wednesday. I know. Thank you, bartender Karen, says Melissa. Fantastic. You guys know how much I love a Shirley Temple, but it's not a really good Shirley Temple if it doesn't come with a bunch of cherries in it. One cherry in a Shirley Temple is just subpar in my opinion. Does Monster Energy drink work for you, Mistress Carrie? Eric wants to know. To me, if I'm going to drink energy drinks, I'm a sugar-free Red Bull girl. And I don't know if it was all the Jaeger and Red Bulls I drank, like back in the early 2000s when Jägermeister was like sponsoring every heavy metal show. But if I'm going to drink energy drinks, that's usually what it is. Just saw those on Amazon. Kathleen says they are so cute. Was that the tray that had the skulls and the top hats or the headphones? Those are the headphone ones. The top hats are different. So that was the 6 skull with the headphones ones. And they came out really good. Carrie, what do you think of Planet Zero? Sarah wants to know. It's so good. It's fantastic. I am so excited for the guys from Shinedown. It's just really, really good. And I'm so, it's hard for me to say something like I'm so proud of them because it sounds kind of motherly and condescending. But when I see people work so hard towards a goal, and I know that they worked so hard towards making this album and having it be something that was reflective of the times, but yet positive, and to really have this theme behind it. And they put so much thought into everything. And to have it come out this past Friday and to have it be that good is pretty amazing. So Shannon says some monsters are sugar-free. I know, but I like the Red Bull sweet tart taste. I can't help it. I need to get Red Bull to sponsor the show. That's what I need to do, because that's my preference. And so it hasn't happened yet, but hopefully someday. They did sponsor my radio show for a while. And actually, I have a like Red Bull refrigerator that they gave me. And then Jägermeister gave me like a leather jacket. So that just goes to show you how many Jaeger and Red Bulls we drank at WAF over the years, that they were gifting us things like embroidered leather jackets and refrigerators because we were drinking so much of it. Walter, get the Red Bull. Yeah, exactly. Can't wait to see Shinedown in September, says Jonathan. It is awesome, says Ash. Absolutely love it. By the way, guys, speaking of Shinedown, if you guys go in my blog, have you guys ever watched the YouTube channel, The Charismatic Voice? I'm sure you have. You may not remember that that's the girl's name, but she's like an opera singer and a vocal coach. And she does these reaction videos to a lot of musicians and especially like rock and heavy metal singers. But she's not well versed in rock and roll. So a lot of this stuff she's never heard before. And she analyzes songs. And she watches the videos and she stops it and she talks about the vocal technique of people like Geddy Lee from Rush and Jeff Tate from Queensryche. And she actually stumbled upon the Shinedown Simple Man version. And so she did a whole video on breaking down Brent Smith's vocal technique on The Charismatic Voice. Well, recently, one of the things that she started doing is interviewing artists, and she calls it Tea Time. And recently she had Brent Smith from Shinedown on there, obviously promoting Planet Zero. And he told her the entire Shinedown, Simple Man, Mistress Carrie, WAF story. And somebody pointed it out to me on Twitter, And so I went back and watched it, and he told the whole story of exactly how it happened, about how this was in the early stages. It happened on February 20th, 2004. And that was in the early stages of radio stations putting things up, audio up on their websites, because in the early days it was like, oh, don't put anything up on the website, then people won't listen to the radio. And then slowly radio stations started understanding that, like, no, people want to be able to go and reference that content. Like if they tuned in halfway through, they want to be able to go and listen to it again, or to be able to turn friends onto it that maybe didn't hear it on the radio, but then that might get people starting to listen to the radio station. So things really started to change, and there it was so immediate, the reaction of Simple Man from Shinedown when they did it in the studio that day, that we decided, and this was something that radio stations stopped doing, we decided to put the MP3 up available for download on our website, which obviously the copyright laws and all of that kind of caught up with internet technology. And now you're not allowed to do that. But back then, it was still kind of the Wild West. And we put it up on the website, and it was the first time we had kind of done anything like that. Shinedown came back to town 6 weeks later, and the band had no idea that the reaction was as strong as it was. They knew that people were playing, that we were playing Simple Man like all the time. And they had actually done another interview at a station somewhere else in the country. And that other station had heard about Simple Man, and they actually went on WAF's website, downloaded the song so that that other radio station could play it. And so when Shinedown came back to town, we asked the web guy, can you get me a count of how many times the song's been downloaded off the website and listened to off the website? And we did a contest, and it was to win an iPod. Shows you how long ago this was. And it was filled with all of, like, it had Shinedown's album on it. It had the AAF version of Simple Man on it. It had a bunch of other music on it as well, but that was the prize. But you had to guess without going over how many times Simple Man had been downloaded off of the WAF website. And it took like an hour to get somebody that was even close. The actual number was 526,419 times, to be exact. I still have all the original audio. But if you go in my blog, I forgot to put that in the War Room this week. You have to go and watch the interview because it's really hilarious. And there were a couple little things that are little details that, like, I couldn't believe Brent remembered because it was almost 20 years ago. Because I have the recordings, and he obviously hasn't heard the recordings since the day that it happened. And so it's pretty hilarious. So if you go to my blog at mistresscarrie.com, that video is up there, and it's pretty epic. So Richard Fitz says, I remember it well. Melissa says, I can't find the 2004 version, can only find the video from 2009. Well, that's because there's no video of the the original in-studio performance. There was no video because Shinedown were this new band, and getting the video stuff set up in there, we did it for a lot of the bigger, more established bands, but at the time, Shinedown was kind of a brand new band, and we weren't putting up videos like on YouTube and stuff the way that people do now all the time. But I recorded everything. And part of the reason why you can't find the AAF version online is that we obviously pulled it off the website. And then when Shinedown went in and re-recorded Simple Man in a studio acoustically and put it on their album, obviously we were trying to get people to buy the record. And so we didn't want to give the song away anymore. And we also wanted it to be something that was exclusively ours. And so, yes, there are other people that kind of have that version out there, but we wanted it to be like an AAF exclusive thing. And so that's why it's really hard to find online. Very nostalgic, Heidi. A little, hey, Carrie, a little on the late side, said Jared. Don't worry about it. It's cool that you remember the number. Well, Jen, first of all, I have the recording of me telling them what the number was. So it's not hard when you have the actual recording. But to hear their reaction to it, so just a little bit more of the behind the scenes stuff, just because it got put up on YouTube with Brent Smith on the Charismatic Voice. So what was kind of hilarious is that Fly From the Inside was the original Shinedown single from the debut album. they were following that which we played. They were following that single up with 45. And that was one of the songs that they had come in to play acoustically when they did Simple Man. And when we started playing Simple Man over and over and over again, the record company and the management and stuff started getting upset because they were like, well, the more you play Simple Man, the less you're going to play 45. And AAF was kind of leading the charge nationally on 45. And they were afraid. I mean, it's funny to look back at it now in hindsight, but the record company was afraid that Simple Man was going to derail 45 and that it was going to have an adverse effect on Shinedown's career. And so there was a lot of back and forth between me and the program director and the record company and the camp because they were like, well, we have a plan. Whenever a band gets ready to release a record, the record company, the management, the label, the PR team, all of it puts a plan in place of what songs they're going to make videos for, what songs they're going to release as singles. And the Simple Man kind of stroke of genius came so far out of left field. And you can hear Brent talk about it in that video that it took everyone by surprise. And I'll never forget it. The record guy was in the studio and he didn't know what the number was. And when we were in the studio, we were live on the air and somebody finally got close enough to win the iPod and guessed that it was 526,419 times that the song had been streamed and downloaded off of our website. And I'll never forget it. Lou, the record guy, his face just turned white and he ran out of the studio and called his bosses in New York because this is, the fact that bands now can get billions of streams on Spotify, that is only possible because of the technology that's behind Spotify and 5G and all of this stuff. In 2004, with like 3G at the most power and, people barely having access to smartphones, we're talking about people sitting at a computer and playing the song. I mean, the iPhone just celebrated its 15th birthday. Like what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? So we're talking about infancy stages of music streaming and downloading and all of that stuff. And for a song by a new band to get downloaded and streamed that many times in 6 weeks, it was earth shattering. And it completely changed Shinedown's kind of plan for how they were going to work the record. And for them to go back in and re-strip the record, it's just a huge, amazing story. And having all the audio, obviously, every once in a while, when I celebrated my 20th anniversary on WAAF, we dug the audio back out. When we were getting ready to go off the air a couple of years ago, we dug the audio back out. But it's obviously not something I listen to all the time. So to see Brent telling a stranger that didn't know the story, how it all happened, it made me very nostalgic and it was really cool. So that's why I put it up in my blog at mistresscarrie.com so that you guys can check it out. So let's see. I'm sure Brent's going to be on again before they get out on the road with Jelly Roll by September. I'm sure we're going to have Jelly Roll back on the show as well. Let's see. Wasn't it on the WAF Survive This CD? Keith, I don't believe it was. I think that we had stopped making those CDs by then, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I think because, even at that point, we had started to see the way that things were shifting with internet content and, the CDs were growing less and less popular and it was getting harder and harder to get the band's permission to put the in-studio performances on it because of music licensing and stuff. And more importantly, and the most obvious, it's not a Shinedown song. So there's also that extra hurdle of getting Lynyrd Skynyrd in on the deal as well and the Lynyrd Skynyrd estate. So wasn't it on the, let's see. Carrie, did you have a great 4th with the family? Heidi wants to know. Well, the 4th was very quiet. I have been working a lot. Not only on the Pike, obviously, not only with the podcast, still making up for the time that I was in Key West and kind of away. Had some interviews to record last week for upcoming episodes of the podcast. But also, I've been working a lot of extra air shifts for Westwood One. And they had some staff reshuffling and there's been a lot going on. So I've actually been on the air every day. So I was on the air yesterday on the Pike and on Westwood One. I was on the air on Sunday on the Pike and Westwood One. And I spent some time with family, yes. I spent a lot of time trying to work in the yard. If you have a backstage pass, this is obviously something that we talk about, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of my mental health and all of that. But still dealing with a shoulder injury, I'm still limited on what I can do to kind of blow off steam. I can't skydive yet. I can't ride my motorcycle yet. So the yard work is something that I obviously want to do for exercise reasons. Number two, it just needs to get done. The lawn got to get mowed. And also, it's just been something that has been invaluable when it comes to blowing off steam. The last couple of weeks have been really hard for me, even just turning on the news, obviously. And I'm not getting into political debates. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about the Supreme Court and all of the different rulings that have come out. But even so much as the shooting in Illinois, putting the news on and looking at some of the things that have been happening, watching a couple hundred white supremacists march through Boston was enough to make my blood boil. And I just really tried to kind of spend a lot of time, with friends and family kind of at home. And I really kind of laid low this year. There's just been so much going on, and I haven't been feeling great because of my shoulder. And just with everything going on with mom and work, it's been a really, kind of tough time. And I really got thrown over the edge this weekend between the shooting in Illinois and just watching those douchebags. I'm not even going to refer to them by the name they choose to go under, but they're the Klan, they're Nazis. And to watch those people in their stupid fucking khakis march through the city of Boston like they're some kind of badasses, and then to watch them run away when a guy walking his dog started videotaping them to get their license plates because they're pussies and they're little sacks of shit. And had anyone had any kind of notice that they were going to be in town, they would have been met with lead pipes or worse when they came into town, kind of like they were in Philly. I got to give it up for the people in Philly. I know that they throw batteries at fucking Santa, but there are some fantastic videos the day after those assholes were in Boston of people in Philly, literally scaring the shit out of them and pushing them back in their stupid rental trucks and pushing them out of town. And that really bothered me, that we are at a point now where, so many of us have a grandfather that actually fought fucking real Nazis. And now, as we're losing more and more of the greatest generation, we are in kind of danger of history repeating itself because of either Holocaust deniers or people that just think they are on some kind of patriotic mission to kind of claim America back for its rightful owners. And it's like, hey, dude, I'm sorry to tell you, but if you're white, you're not the fucking rightful owner. Okay? So whatever kind of supremacy you're trying to put forward, it's not really working. Are you kidding me? What's kind of funny, actually, along those same lines, is that those guys are always trying to claim America, saying it's ours, meaning theirs, not ours as in all of ours, which it actually is. And I told you guys that my sister and I have been doing all of this genealogy research through COVID because we had to find something constructive to do with our time. And while our dad's side of the family was definitely the immigrant side of the family, the Portuguese and Sicilian side of the family, that we know when they arrived in the United States at the turn of the century, we know the ship manifest, we know where they went. My mom's side of the family, we always knew ran deep in America, but we didn't really know how deep. And what we're discovering now, and we need the documentation all to prove it, so we're in the document finding portion, but I've been asking a lot of military friends a lot of questions because we're finding things like muster military sheets. We're finding census stuff, that kind of stuff. And we're starting to find a lot of official documents. The good thing about New England is that they kept really good documents. And so what we found out is that once we get the documents in hand, we're actually going to send in the applications. but we actually qualify to be Daughters of the Revolution, which is kind of amazing that we had a 13th great grandfather or a 13th grandfather, however you word it, that served under General Washington in Boston, which is kind of amazing. And we also are starting to find out that we are probably descendants to someone on the Mayflower, that we have found a relative that died in Plymouth in 1630, a woman. And as we're tracing these ship manifests back, our family literally goes back to the birth of the United States. So that being said, as we're collecting these documents to be able to prove it, because if I qualify to be a daughter of the American Revolution, you bet your ass I want membership in that. And I also, here in the War Room, want the enlistment papers for every relative that served in the military, including the one that served not only under Washington in Boston, but also served in West Point, and then fell off his horse, broke his leg, and was discharged from the military and rode a horse home. And so we're finding all of this kind of stuff. And so when I see these fucking pussies in khakis covering their faces, beating their little drummer boy drums, and carrying white supremacy, Mussolini, fascist flags through the city that literally was all about declaring independence and being a bastion of freedom and a light to the world, it makes me physically sick. And it really bothered me this weekend. And so I'm sorry to kind of go off on a tangent, but when you're asking me about 4th of July this year, there were a lot of mixed emotions about the holiday this year, about how I feel as a woman in my own country, about how I feel the direction of the country is going when I see white supremacists like just walking down the street. At least they're still scared enough to cover their faces. But like the ones in Charlottesville, like they weren't covering their faces because they're not afraid to be racist anymore. And, you know, you'll notice that they were just men because they believe that they're the superior gender as well. And so, you know, ladies, if you're white, you're not safe either because they think that they're the superior gender and you're subservient to them. So you don't even get to like try to lean on this white privilege that you may think you have because you don't, because you're a woman. And so it really pisses me off. Richard Fitz says, interesting facts. There have been male Fitz on the dad side in every conflict all the way back to the revolution. It's amazing the American history that we are so lucky to be surrounded by growing up in New England. And it cracks me up that this region of the country gets painted to be such snowflake, you know, liberals and whatever. And when I hear people say that, I remind them that we're undefeated. Moving on. Let's see. Tracy says my ancestors were in the Salem witch trials, so fuck you, preppy brats. Kind of one of the reasons why I don't feel like going to celebrate, for reasons both sides of the issues. Yeah, it's just, it's been really hard. And, you know, it would have been really helpful and healing for the United States if we didn't have such division on a day that we're supposed to celebrate this American experiment in democracy. And, you know, the Declaration of Independence is something that, you know, we used to all be able to agree on, or at least I thought. And I know that the mayor of Boston is kind of looking into all of this. There have been amazing people on the internet that have been tracking these assholes down, holding U-Haul and Penske and Ryder and all of these like rental truck companies accountable, because these trucks keep getting rented and those trucks have serial numbers on them. And so to watch them load people into the back of those trucks when you're not supposed to have people back there, how are these guys not getting arrested for driving violations when they're packing a truck full of douchebags and getting on the highway and driving out of town? Like, I'm really disappointed in Boston that a bunch of guys in like tracksuits and scally caps and like drunk Red Sox fans didn't get videotaped kicking the shit out of these guys in the Common. Like just guys in Bruin shirts that just like And they don't announce that they're going to be there for that reason, because they know we would show up in force and they wouldn't make it out of town alive. And so this year was just weird. To be honest, it was just weird all the way around. And obviously the shooting and the more details that come out about that in Illinois has just been really sad for me. Watching a politician that's running for office in Illinois make a public statement like, it's been a couple of hours. Let's get back to celebrating our independence, when his own constituents' bodies are still laying in the street. Like, I'm just trying to figure out like where people's empathy has gone, because I feel like lately I've been overwhelmed with empathy to the point where it's kind of crippling. Like, it makes me not want to be able to handle anything, because I'm so horrified by what's going on, and to watch other people think it's just not a fucking big deal. It's like, I remember when white supremacists would have been afraid to organize and wear matching outfits and walk through the streets in the United States. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago that they had the hoods on and were parading down the nation's capital. But then there was a time in between where I felt like America had united enough that we all agreed that wasn't okay. And now it's kind of coming back. And so it just, I don't know, this weekend was fucking brutal. And I would like to hope that if those guys ever decide they'd try to come back, that they would be met with the day they deserve. I'll put it that way. Let's see. Those jackasses needed a firecracker in the ass. Totally understand and agree with you, says Kimberly. I feel that way too, says Heidi. I'll say it again. I'm glad that people celebrated. Where I was in California, we had bloodshed in Highland Park, Illinois. Yeah, it's been really crazy. And, I always go back and forth. And it's a line that we always kind of hopped back over, not only at AAF, but at the Pike, and obviously with the podcast and in the War Room, that I don't just want to be this place that's just beating you over the head with the sad news and current events and the polarizing political topics. But it's also really hard to just be like the dancing clown that makes balloon animals and like pretends that the world is fine. And so we were always able to find a way on the radio to be able to keep you informed and have opinions about things, but also to be able to try and show you that there's still good in the world as well, and to be an outlet for you to try and take your mind off of the stress. And so that's kind of what I try to do here in the War Room as well. So I don't want to dwell too much on the negative, but this weekend was weird. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. If they're so proud of their beliefs, then they should be able to show their faces. Exactly. Yeah. And I think especially for somebody like me that for so long has made my living having to back up everything I say behind this microphone, to having to back it up when I go out in public and bump into you guys at the supermarket or the gas station, or when I see you at a concert, or to be able to back up our opinions on social media or the videos we make on YouTube. And that, we always had the phone lines open so that if someone called with a differing view, and I got into some fiery debates over the years, but we never got to hide behind the microphone. There was never a way that like you could just be in a radio station at like David Allen Boucher for 40 years doing bedtime magic and nobody knew what he looked like. Like that didn't work for us. So if we were going to have a really strong opinion about something, we had to be able to go out in public and back up what we said. So I really don't have a lot of empathy or sympathy for people that, hide behind masks or hide behind microphones and then, cry when people hold them accountable in public, because we've been having to do that for decades. It comes with the territory. You're going to be a white supremacist, take the fucking mask off so we can all see you and hold you accountable. So we can not shop in your business, so that we can complain to your boss that you're a shitbag. If you are an elected official, that we can, make sure your constituents know exactly who the fuck you are. So, but they won't. It's always okay to vent, Carrie, says Jonathan. Good, because sometimes I fucking need to. or hide behind the keyboards. Exactly, Donna. You know, the keyboard warriors that are the ones threatening to rape women on fucking Twitter. And it's like, you know, oh, okay, so how would you feel if I showed up at your front door where you're probably living in your mom's basement? What are you going to do then? I'm here with all my friends. We just wanted to ask you about the tweet. How you doing? Speak the truth, says Sean. I always say if you're not going to have the balls enough to say it, yeah, like just fucking back it up, man. I know, a lot of F-bombs tonight. Sorry, Keith. There's just a lot of them. Walter, get the limoncello, says Will. All right, I'm super excited to be able to talk about the podcast this week, guys, because this may be one of my favorite episodes. It's somebody that I'm super, super excited to have on the show. They haven't been on the podcast, but I've interviewed them several times. So let's get to the podcast and talk about last week's episode 108. Ronnie Radke from Falling in Reverse was on the show. And you want to talk about a guy that literally is like, I say whatever the fuck I want, and I don't care if you like it or not. That's Ronnie Radke from Falling in Reverse. His book came out called I Can Explain. If you start Googling Ronnie Radke, it's really not hard to find articles about the manslaughter charge. It's not hard to find articles about his anger issues, about some of the things he said. He has been very vocal and was on this episode of the podcast about his troubled upbringing and tackling demons, about seeking out therapy, about putting all of these things in his book to really make sure that people understand his whole story. And he talked about how the press writes stories about him just to get the clicks. And the more popular the band gets, the more it keeps happening to him. And so that was part of the reason why he wanted to write the book. He was like, look, I want to set the record straight. I'm not backing away. I'm not trying to shirk any kind of responsibility for the choices that I've made in my life. But I also want to show people that I'm a better person now, that I am channeling things into a constructive place, into my music, into my art, and I am getting in control of my emotions. He talked at length about therapy in the episode. You know, I love the line where he says, it's like, if you don't like dogs, I can't trust you. You need therapy. So according to Ronnie Radke, if you don't like Bohemian Rhapsody and you don't like dogs, you need to go to therapy. And I couldn't agree more with him. So I really liked getting to know him. In preparing for the interview, you know, you never know how people are going to react to questions, especially when you've never interviewed them before. And so, you know, you don't know, there can be a mistrust because they don't know if you're going to take their words and edit them and misconstrue them, because that happens to them all the time. And what I always tell them is, look, the only time I edit the podcast is to, you know, if somebody takes a really long time thinking about an answer, I'll shorten the silence gap up. I'll run it through some processing to try and get some background noises out. If there's buzzes or hums, you know, bird noises, whatever other noises have been. Like Amy Lee did the interview in her kitchen and it was super echoey. Ann Wilson had music on in the background and it kept clipping when she was recording it. Like there was weird humming when Nancy Wilson was on the show. Like that's the only time I really do work to the podcast. Otherwise, the interview is the interview and that's just what it is. And so I was not really sure how he was going to react to coming on the show and how forthcoming he was going to be. I was actually shocked that he was so nice and so happy and that he was just so forthcoming and open and honest about everything. And he's an open book. And I loved the way that he talked about Jacoby Shaddix, who I know has just had such a long journey in his career. He's someone that I just think is such a positive force. I loved having him on the show. I love going to see those guys live. Jacoby has tackled a lot of demons. You know, he talked about it in the show, being raised by an alcoholic Vietnam veteran, you know, really shaped his development growing up and really was able to channel all of that into learning what kind of father he didn't want to be. and figuring out the kind of father he did want to be with his sons. And he's so proud of the, the relationship that he has with his kids. And so to hear Ronnie Radke in this episode talk so highly about the close relationship he has with Jacoby Shaddix, about how he looks up to Jacoby, about how Jacoby is such a positive force in his life. It was really cool to hear him talk about it that way. So deep birding. Yeah, exactly, Donna. Exactly. The fucking birds, says Shannon. I remember that podcast, the one with the birds. Yeah, it's the Volbeat episode. Freaking birds. Brutal. Hold on, I have to eat the strawberry because I need dinner. I didn't eat dinner yet. So that's really the only kind of work that I do on the podcast. And so don't worry, Michael, it's cool. You can be late. So I think what's happening now is that people are hearing other artists on the podcast and realizing the kind of interviews that we do, or I do. And they're coming on the show without that kind of guard up, which is great. And I bring it up because episode 109, which comes out tomorrow, is somebody I've interviewed multiple times. And I was so excited when I found out they were going to come on the show. And as soon as they popped up on my video screen, it was like, here we go. And you can hear it in the episode. It's such a fun episode. It's so happy. We talked about some serious stuff too. But if you haven't listened to episode 108 featuring Ronnie Radke from Falling in Reverse, definitely go back and listen to it. But I am so excited for you guys to hear this week's episode. Episode 109 of the Mistress Carrie podcast features Frank Bello from Anthrax. I seriously think this guy is just so awesome. Not because I love Anthrax, but because Frank has just always been that positive force. He has always been amazing coming in on my show when Anthrax would come to town, when I would see him at shows, just always so willing to say hi, always so willing to jump on the air. Just such an amazing guy from such a legendary band, influential band. He's part of the Big Four, seriously. And we talk about it in the episode. So finding out that Anthrax is part of the lineup of the Tattoo the Earth Festival that is going to be at the Palladium Outdoors at the end of August with Black Label Society and Hatebreed, that's their tour that's going out right now. And so we talked a lot about being able to go out on the road with bands that you're friends with, which is exactly what the guys from Anthrax are doing. Being able to go back and talk about some of the old Anthrax things. They're celebrating their 40th anniversary. And talking about the archives of all of the things that, they made those YouTube videos kind of commemorating different times in Anthrax's career during the height of the pandemic. And then to also hear him, speaking of how your father shapes your life, he also wrote a book during the pandemic. And we talked at length about that in the episode too, about, really getting personal, about his dad abandoning the family, about growing up working in a deli, which is something he and I had in common, both being Italian and growing up in the deli, which the last 15 minutes of the episode are pretty freaking hilarious because we started talking about what it's like to grow up working in a deli. And we really bonded over the cutting of meat. As weird as that sounds. So I am so excited. Yes, Frank is very frank, says Jonathan. I am just so excited for you guys to hear this episode. You do not have to be an Anthrax fan. You don't have to like, that entire genre. You don't have to like heavy metal. You don't have to like their music at all. This episode is really fun. And we talk a little bit about everything. And the playlist, Jonathan, you couldn't be more on the fucking nose. The playlist for this episode is great. There is some awesome stuff in there. And raw meat. Yeah, exactly, Heidi. When I finished recording this episode with him, it was one of those things where it was like, I felt really good, and I don't feel bad when I do any of these interviews, but I was so happy because he's just such a happy guy. And he, He's one of those people that you just know is doing exactly what he was born to do. He's in a band with a bunch of guys from the neighborhood that he grew up with. The band has had lineup changes over the years, but they've always managed to kind of bring it back. And we talked a lot about the concept of like rock being dead and a band like Anthrax really not having anything to prove anymore and where that motivation comes from for them to keep going. It's a really, really good episode, and I'm super excited for you guys to hear it. So episode 109 of the Mistress Carrie podcast goes live at midnight tonight, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. And if you're Italian, you're really going to love it. And my husband is going to listen to this and be like, here we go again, because he comes up in the podcast, as you guys have known, because he's not Italian and kind of doesn't understand the Italian things that we do like this. Yeah. Frank and I were talking about this kind of thing when we did the interview. And so, yeah, there's definitely some stuff in there for the husband as well. So please tell me Public Enemy and Anthrax, the duo, is on the playlist. Of course it is. Bring the Noise. You think I was going to leave that off the playlist? Hell yeah. When are you going to have Brent Smith back on the show? It's got to happen before they get here. Either that or I'm going to find a way to record an episode that night at the show, which it's not till September, but I am warning you guys that the Shinedown Jelly Roll show at the Xfinity Center falls on a Tuesday night, and I don't think it's going to be possible for me to do the War Room from there. Not only that, but I wouldn't be able to actually see Jelly Roll because the War Room would be happening during Jelly Roll's set. So I'm just warning you guys that coming up in September, the War Room might get bumped to Wednesday night that week. Or Monday night. We might do it the night before. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be possible for me to take the War Room on deployment backstage at Shinedown because I think it's just going to be too many moving parts. And I also don't want to miss the show. I really am so excited to see Jelly Roll on a stage that big, in front of a crowd that big. And I don't want to miss a second of Shinedown either. The last time I saw Shinedown at the Xfinity Center, it was their co-headlining show with Godsmack. And I really want to see Shinedown sell out the Xfinity Center on their own 2 feet. So we'll see what happens, but that's in September. Oh, it's a good Shirley Temple. All right. Want to remind you guys about not only the weekly episodes of the podcast, but also the sit reps that come out every weekday. All of your rock news, the music headlines, the entertainment updates, all of that stuff. You get it in 5 minutes. It uploads in the middle of the night, no matter how early you get up in the morning. It can be the soundtrack to your shower. It can be what you listen to while you're making coffee, while you're sitting in line to drop off the kids in the morning, while you're at the drive-thru at Starbucks. Seriously, there's no way in the morning, if you're a commuter, that you're sitting in line at Starbucks for less than 5 minutes. You could listen to the sit rep while you're waiting on your coffee in the morning. So that is up there every Monday through Friday. The only time you don't get the sit rep is when I'm on the road, because it's a little bit hard, especially if I'm on vacation, to do the sit rep because it's not something like a podcast episode that can be recorded ahead of time. Want to remind you guys about all the places you can find the podcast too, and it's growing. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts, just search Mistress Carrie. You're going to find, sometimes you'll find the old side piece podcast that I did on WAAF, and there's like 28 or 30 episodes of that. But this is everywhere. As long as you see this artwork, you know that you're in the right spot. And it's now 109 full-length episodes. I think there's like 10 bonus episodes, some after-action reports, and then there's hundreds of sit reps in there. So there's a lot in the podcast. Had something cool to show you guys. Got some more data on who is listening to the podcast. It's still holding strong at 130 countries, but when it comes to the top 5 countries in the world that are listening to the Mistress Carrie podcast, obviously the United States is number 1. Singapore, still number 2, holding off Canada, who I thought would never be unseated at number 2. They are at number 3, our neighbors to the north. France is number 4 in listenership of the podcast, and Sweden is now at number 5, which is just crazy to me. So thank you to everybody that's listening to the podcast. Thank you to everybody that is sharing the podcast with their friends. I can't wait for all the Anthrax fans worldwide to get a hold of the episode this week with Frank Bello. So, yes, I mean, Dunks. Well, Thomas, look, I go to Dunks and I order on the app and it doesn't take me 5 minutes. Every time I drive by a Starbucks, the line is like down the street at the drive-thru. There's no way you're sitting at Starbucks for less than 5 minutes. So if you're going to sit there and pay $12 for a coffee, you can listen to the sit rep while you're sitting there in the drive-thru. Yeah, I'm very excited about the top 5 countries. It's just crazy, diverse, weird. Pretty excited about it. I think number 6 is India too, which is just awesome. So super excited that so many people are discovering the podcast. Just want to run down some of these shows. Judas Priest and Queensryche are going to be at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway. Cool news about Judas Priest, by the way. Not only are they going to be at the MGM Music Hall in October, not only are they getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November, but also Rob Halford has a new Funko Pop coming out, and it's the Rob Halford Hellbent for Leather Funko Pop. So he's got the full leather outfit, and his little Funko Pop's holding a whip, and it is amazing. I saw a picture of it online. It's supposed to be available, I think, by the end of the summer. So that's Judas Priest and Queensryche. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss. 2 dates in New England coming up in September. The Leader Bank Pavilion on the 9th, Foxwoods on the 10th. I Prevail and the True Power Tour at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on November 19th. In This Moment, Nothing More, the Cherry Bombs and Sleep Token at the MGM Music Hall. That is on September 17th as well. Tickets for all of those are all on sale right now. You can always check the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the events calendar so that all of that stuff goes directly on the calendar on your phone. And it doesn't matter what kind of phone you have. It doesn't matter what kind of calendar you use. The Google Calendar, iCal, whatever it is. We were just talking about Shinedown and Jelly Roll and John Harvey. That is happening at the Xfinity Center on September 13th. Weird Al and Emo Phillips, if you're looking for some laughs, that's going to be at Indian Ranch August 5th. And what's crazy is that we've been talking about these shows for a while, and Indian Ranch on August 5th is a month from today. It's so crazy how quick the summer's going. Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin and Bush at the Xfinity Center coming up in October. Ann Wilson at Indian Ranch. It's like 2 weeks away. It's insane that it's so crazy. Aaron Lewis is at Indian Ranch on September 3rd, by the way. Indian Ranch, a ton of shows. There's so much going on over there this year. Staind is also going to be at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Mass, coming up on September 11th. Those tickets are already on sale. Joe Satriani at the Orpheum, November 5th. Five Finger Death Punch, who are getting ready to release their new album, Afterlife, coming up next month. They're going out on the road with Megadeth, The Who, and Fire from the Gods. I read an interesting article, still waiting on, by the way, the Five Finger guys to come on the show. I'm trying to get them on before they come to town, and obviously before the record comes on. But I've known Zoltan from Five Finger Death Punch for a really long time. And I know Ivan Moody, too, from Motor Grader, like back in the day. Matter of fact, I didn't even know that it was Ivan Moody from Motor Grader when he joined Five Finger Death Punch, because I had never seen Ivan Moody without all of the white makeup on when he was in Motor Grader. But I read an interesting article, and Zoltan was talking about the Five Finger Death Punch album, Afterlife, and that the reason why they named it that was because people really took stock in their lives during COVID. And they realized what was important. If their job was making them miserable, if their job was giving them no joy, wasn't being understanding about family responsibilities or anything, that people, and that's part of the reason why, there's so many companies that are looking for employees. A lot of the time employees are quitting because they're like, look, I can make the same amount of money somewhere else, but you treat me like shit. So I'm not going to work for you because you treat me like shit. And they leave. And that is part of what Afterlife is. It's people have had these couple years now to look at their life, realize what makes them happy and who makes them happy, and realize what doesn't and who doesn't. And kind of life after COVID is like the afterlife. And that's kind of where they got the name for the record. AWOL Nation is going to be at the House of Blues on October 23rd. That's in Boston on Lansdowne Street for anybody joining us here in the War Room that doesn't know which House of Blues I'm talking about. Hailstorm, The Pretty Reckless, The Warning, and Lilith Czar. They're going to be at the Leader Bank Pavilion in a couple of weeks. It's like less than 2 weeks away. So those tickets are on sale now. Same thing with ZZ Top. Leader Bank Pavilion, July 22nd. Don't forget, the Joe Perry Project is opening up that show. They're not doing the whole tour, but they're doing some of the shows. And Gary Sharon is singing for the Joe Perry Project at the ZZ Top show at the Leader Bank Pavilion that night, which is pretty cool. Extreme, speaking of Gary Sharon, are going to be at Indian Ranch September 2nd and at the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom on September 3rd. And then they will be opening up for Aerosmith at Fenway on September 8th. Lots of Aerosmith news to talk about. So first of all, Steven Tyler is out of rehab. He's been spotted in Massachusetts. He was at an oyster farm in Duxbury taking pictures with the employees. He looks really healthy and he looks really good. And I couldn't be happier for Steven Tyler, realizing after surgery and exposure to pain medication and having a slip up with his sobriety that he could lose everything and checked himself voluntarily into treatment. That's strength to be able to do that. Knowing how much is riding on it, knowing all the dates that they had to cancel on their residency in Vegas over the summer so that he could get healthy. And then Joe Perry not only has dates in the summer of 2023 with the Hollywood Vampires with Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper, but he's also got these shows with the Joe Perry Project. And he also did an interview recently and he was talking about some of the things in Aerosmith's debut album that he's not happy with. And he said, I couldn't believe it, but he said, I wish my guitar sounded better. What? He also said that that the recording of the rehearsal that they released for Record Store Day, It All Starts Here, really kind of motivated the band to go through their archives. And I guess there's a lot of archives. And there is a ton of Aerosmith content that they are going to start releasing over the next couple of years, which is pretty amazing. Sad Aerosmith news. Linda Kramer, Joey Kramer's wife of 13 years, passed away a couple weeks ago. And it didn't really hit the news until before the holiday weekend, but really sad. Joey Kramer, you know, you couldn't be around him for more than 5 minutes without him talking about his wife in a glowing way. And she was the same way with him. And they were married for 13 years and she unexpectedly passed away. And I just can't imagine what that is like. And I know that he's got some other challenges that are happening right now. He had already pulled himself off of the Aerosmith tour for the rest of the year. There's no word yet on if he's going to perform at Fenway or not, but I as of right now, I don't think he is. I could be wrong, but I don't think he is. So it's just really sad. So obviously sending all of my love to Joey Kramer that, you know, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't, you know, his wife was only 55 years old. It's just terrible. So when I read that, the obituary ended up getting put in the papers in Boston, and they were asking for donations to one of the St. Jude's hospitals and also to a canine rescue in lieu of flowers, which I thought was really classy as well. So, and then don't forget the Red Hot Chili Peppers are going to be at Fenway coming up on September 10th. Flogging Molly and the Interrupters are at the Leader Bank Pavilion last week. Typo. This is where the wheels start falling off the show, by the way. If you're new, this is how it happens. Rob Zombie, Mudvayne, Powerman 5000, and Static X are going to be at the Xfinity Center at the end of the month. The stadium tour at Fenway. Bret Michaels, by the way, is on the mend. The tour is in St. Louis tonight. Poison is playing with Bret Michaels. He's still weak. He had an adverse reaction to some medication because, as you'll remember, not only is he a type 1 diabetic, but he also had a stroke. He has had some serious health issues over the years, and so I'm sure he's on some medication. But he had an allergic reaction to some kind of medication. They had to cancel the show in Nashville. He is back playing with the band, but he's not doing like all of the VIP meet and greets and all of that stuff before the show. He's resting. Put up a social media post about it today. And Tommy Lee is back behind the drum set for Motley Crue as well. Even though he's got 4 broken ribs, he's gutting it through. So the stadium tour is all ahead full, and it's coming into the Fenway Park on August 5th and 6th. Collective Soul and Switchfoot at Indian Ranch on August 6th. Ghost, Mastodon, and Spirit Box at the Dunkin' Donuts Center coming up on September 12th. Lamb of God and Killswitch Engage. Tickets went on sale a couple weeks ago for that show at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on September 21st. Godsmack doing their big charity show at the MGM Theater, or the Music Hall, I should say, at Fenway on Saturday, August 27th. The Tattoo the Earth Festival, August 17th at the Palladium. Frank Bello and I talk all about it this week on the podcast. Anthrax, Black Label Society, Hatebreed, At the Gates, Municipal Waste, and Enforced. And that's just on the main stage. The second stage is also full of bands as well. And if you listened to the podcast a couple weeks ago, it was a whole Tattoo the Earth episode. Evanescence and Korn are going to be at the Xfinity Center coming up on August 26th. And new music that is coming out this week. Obviously, Shinedown, Planet Zero came out last Friday. This Friday, Journey's new album, Freedom, comes out. Neil Young is finally releasing the album Toast. He recorded it, was set to release it in, I believe, 2001, said it was too sad of a record to release and it got shelved. And now he's finally releasing it. And the Dropkick Murphys announced that they are releasing a new song tomorrow from their upcoming new album. The song is called Two Sixes Upside Down. The album is called This Machine Still Kills Fascists. The album is coming out on September 30th, but there is a new Dropkick Murphy song being released tomorrow. Kenny Casey announcing that today on social media. I know. Sorry, guys. There's typos. Damn it. And then speaking of some cool events coming up, the Pike has got a couple of them. Not only is the Hair Fest happening at the end of the month, the 4th annual 100 FM The Pike Hair Fest is at Indian Ranch on July 30th. Then the next day, the Pike is presenting Tesla at Indian Ranch on July 31st. And then the Rock Fest with Draw the Line and Best Shot. Vintage Skinner's going to be there. Cold as Ice is going to be there. That is happening on September 10th at Indian Ranch as well. All of the shows, all the concerts, everything around the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Mail call this week because of the long holiday weekend and because your host, me, did not get a chance to check the mail this week. So there is no mail call this week. I apologize. I'll try to be better next week. I'll be a better host next week for episode 192 of Cocktails in the War Room. No drinking Fernandez Sangria. Oh, I know I need some Fernandez Sangria, seriously. All right. I want to make sure you guys know it is Christmas in July. So if you want to do some shopping online in the Mistress Carrie store, you can get 10% off of everything in the store all month long. It's Christmas in July. Use the code July 2022 at checkout and you get 10% off of everything in the store. That includes the tank tops. It includes the Christmas ornaments. It includes anything that's on sale. You can use the discount code to get even more money off. I think some of those lockdown onesies are like $5 in the store or something. So take advantage of the discount code, 10% off of everything. There's no limit on what you can buy, and it's good all month long. So get yourself some goodies, some tank tops or t-shirts. If you're celebrating your birthday today, Huey Lewis is born on July 5th. And also, speaking of Aerosmith, Jimmy Crespo, who was a member of the band for 6 years, something like that. He was also born on July 5th. So if today's your birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy unbirthday, Keith. Rachel, there are baby onesies, and yes, you can get the 10% off with the discount code. So the baby onesies are up in the store. I believe all the sizes are in stock too. It goes newborn, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, I think. Carrie, you have a personal bartender. You need a personal mail person. I concur. Couldn't agree more, Jonathan. Absolutely. Gonna jump in the shower and get ready for bed. See you all next week. Wash all the squishy parts, Thomas. Enjoy your shower. Happy unbirthday, Keith. Clarence celebrating his birthday on Friday. Happy early birthday to Clarence. Someone get Carrie a refill. Thank you, Chris. Exactly. We ladies deserve to spoil ourselves with Mistress Carrie gear. Absolutely, Heidi. So you get 10% off of everything all month long. So the code's good till the end of the month. Speaking of that, if you have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, you get 20% off of everything in the store this month. So having a Backstage Pass does have its benefits. So not only can you get 20% off of everything in the store all month long, you get access to exclusive concert ticket giveaways. So right now, Backstage Pass holders on Patreon have access to the Rob Zombie tickets, to the Korn and Evanescence tickets, to the Hailstorm, the Pretty Reckless tickets, the Alice in Chains, Breaking Benjamin, and Bush tickets. All of those are up for grabs if you have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass. You can go to mistresscarrie.com, click the Patreon link, or go to patreon.com/mistresscarrie. You also get to be part of the exclusive live streams we do every month. We get together once a month. It's kind of like a War Room thing, but it's a lot smaller of a group. You get a little bit more of the behind the scenes working of the podcast, more personal stuff, more travel blogs. This past one that we did, we talked a lot about where to go and eat in Key West. Where did we have the best key lime pie? Suggestions on where to stay if you've never been there before, depending on what kind of vacation. So the Backstage Pass kind of gives you a little bit of everything. You can also submit upcoming podcast interview submissions. Put your questions in there and I'll ask them for you. You get the travel blog updates, early access to event tickets. I also kind of tip you off on some upcoming release information. When I find out stuff that I'm not allowed to kind of say on the air, sometimes I tip the people off with the Backstage Passes about shows that are getting announced, albums that are getting released, things that haven't been announced yet. So you get a lot of stuff with the Backstage Pass. So if you don't have it yet, go to mistresscarrie.com, get yourself a Backstage Pass. But you can also get 20% off everything in the store. And then don't forget all the social media links. You can find me everywhere. TikTok is growing slowly. Every once in a while, I start getting these alerts and I'm like, all right, people are starting to like these little snippets of the podcast interviews and stuff. I don't have the hats, Betty, baseball hats. I don't have the beanies I have, but I don't have the baseball hats yet. Supply chain stuff is still a thing, unfortunately. The embroidered patches are back in stock as well. We sold out of all of the patches at the big gig in April, and we got the patches back in stock. So those are up on the website, fully back in stock. So yeah, I think pretty much everything on the website is fully in stock at this point. The hoodies we have in all the sizes. And when you get the discount codes, because the hoodies are a little bit pricey, because they're a little bit pricey for me to get them, take advantage of the discount codes and get the hoodie because it's 10% off is a lot. All right, guys, that's the show, I think, right? Did we get everything? Super excited about this week's episode. Episode 109, Frank Bello from Anthrax. I think you guys, even if you don't like Anthrax, I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. He's such a fun guy. We bonded over the Italian experience, the gardening stuff, working in the deli. There's just a lot of really fun stuff. And we also talked a lot about the Super Bowl halftime show, what it means to be part of the Big Four, the origins of heavy metal. There's a lot of great stuff in there. So super excited. That goes live at midnight tonight. That's a wrap, guys. Got a hoodie from my mom. She loves it, says Shannon. They're super comfortable and the zipper's really good. I told you, I beta test everything before I put it up on the website, and the zippers on the hoodies are the best zippers I could get, and they don't buckle. They're good zippers. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what? You guys are right. I fucked up the drink recipe tonight. I didn't bring the book. Oh, what are you guys going to drink for the next 6 days? Guys, I really thought I had my shit together this week. The show started on time. I thought I got all the typos out of the show. Fuck. That's how we're going to end the show. On a low note, new Dropkick Murphy song tomorrow, new podcast episode tomorrow, sit rep tomorrow. Lots going on. Sorry about the drink recipe. You know what? We're doing 2 next week to make up for it. Write that down. Actually, who am I kidding? I better write that down. All right, good night, guys. I'll see you guys next week.